Howdy, howdy, everybody out there. Welcome back to my little digital slice of the grand land of Olean. So today, we're back for part 2 of chapter 4, the 6 pillars of entertainment success, as we read aloud from Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Now, don't forget, we have a sponsored book giveaway happening. Pretty much, whenever we donate enough money for me to purchase and send out a book, we will do that. So you can be a sponsor of the channel by helping us donate this fantastic book out into the wild for aspiring performers. Now, before we get started, what I'd like to really do here is I'd like to shake it out, right? Shake it out. Whoa, buddy. Now, here's something that I really like to do, get warmed up real quick. Thumb down. You can follow along at home. Just like this. Perfect. You're doing it right. You're doing everything right. Now, here we go. Now, just turn that up. There you go. Perfect. Now that you've got yourself loosened up, we're ready to go. We're going to do some reading from the book. Let's go ahead and jump on over here. And as we get started, don't forget, check out Zenbuster Music. It's great for background. It's royalty-free music. And it's just what we use. There's a lot of other things to use, and if whatever you like to use, let me know down below. We're going to hop over to page 74. Now, before we... let's see. So, I'm going to refresh your memory. The 6 pillars. Master your craft. Communicate your humanity. Capture the excitement. Those are the 3 that we did yesterday. Today we're going to be doing control every moment, eliminate weak spots, build to a climax. So here we go. Just looking here real quick to see how long this is. We do have some pages to get through, about 20 of them. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 4, control every moment. Every moment counts. You cannot permit the minds of your audience to wander. In tennis and other sports as well, coaches urge their students to play the ball. Don't let the ball play you. Translated to show business, you must play the audience and never let the audience play you. I'm going to turn this down a little bit because it seems loud to me, so it's probably loud to you as well. A little bit better. Okay. Understand... let's see. Every moment when you stand on stage, you must control the action. Understand and accept that from time to time, gremlins will work their slimy machinations upon your carefully rehearsed program. Don't panic. It's a part of show business to have things go wrong. Screw-ups happen to pros and amateurs alike. And how you handle those moments when the microphone cuts out, or the lights flicker, or you realize you pulled the wrong cards out of your pocket, are moments that separate the winners from the losers in show business. We talked about this yesterday with that example of the power going out in the theater, and we're talking kids. High school kids and lower, all the way down to elementary level. And at every level, they just kept going. Stellar, right? They knew what to do. Nothing ruins a show faster than when your audience knows or even suspects that you have lost control of the moment. Understanding that truism, you must gird yourself to never lose control. Disciplined practice sessions and performing experience will always be the best teachers in these situations. But you can ease the learning process by preparing for the worst. Here are a few tricks of the trade to help you maintain control. And then I, said to the guy, you lose a bit of control every time you insert hesitation into your speech pattern. Every drawn out well, or any of their many equivalents immediately tells the audience that you have, however briefly, lost your way. Avoiding those hesitations is not a difficult skill to acquire. First, acknowledge your tendency to speak the way we all speak in social situations. and then recognize that performing demands a higher degree of fluency. Putting it succinctly, your awareness of the problem is more than half the solution. So when you reach a moment when you are unsure what to say next, pause. You will sound thoughtful and wise. Insert an and you will sound, well, how should I put this? Let's see. Well, like one of those nice but regular folks out there in the audience. After all, they could get up on stage and sound frightened and unsure and wimpy and not in control of that moment. Is that what you want? Hell no! Exclamation point! Make sure you don't sound like that. Slow down and think, if you must, but never let them know, not even for a split second, that you have lost control of your own speech patterns. A fastly and confident flow of words inextricably related to the time you spend rehearsing your script, and we discuss this in greater detail in the chapter on scripting. I can't wait to get to that chapter. There's scripting that I've started doing that I definitely need help with. Superman doesn't him and haw, Clark Kent does. Which are you? Use a lower gear for more traction. If you do sense that the bond between you and your audience has too much slack, you can do what many performers do: increase your energy level, speed things up, or better yet, you can slow down. You may be surprised that I urge you to slow down. In fact, that was one of the best tips I learned back in my college theater days, and I have used it often. When I feel the audience attention on me is slipping away, it frequently is best I've been running for too long at one level. High energy. By simply slowing down and lowering the volume and pitch of my voice, the audience snaps to attention. Now notice something that I'm doing here, because I've learned this in other things as well. I'm starting the sentence quickly, but then at the last, I'm saying each word individually. So what that sounds like is this. The change of pace and nothing else alerts them that something new is happening on stage. You're going through the first part to build the tension, and then you're slowing down at the end to have them hooked on every single word. Frequently, that's all I need to put me back in command. Because what ends up happening is that if you're high energy, then they get exhausted with that. But if you slow down and you say those words and they're paying attention to what it is that you're doing, and you lower your volume, then they have to lean in and their brain has to kind of focus a little bit more on what's happening. And because in neurochemistry, we've learned that multitasking, your brain doesn't do it very well, or if at all, for some people, it's a myth. So the idea is that you're trying to grab the focus and attention that the brain has. It's like a spotlight. So basically, like if this, I use the example, do I have one here? Usually I have one sitting right here, like a sponge ball or something. So this, let's use this as the example. So the magic 8 ball is your center of attention, right? And this is basically why we create movement, because then your eyes focus on what's moving. And so if I'm moving this around like this, you don't really see me moving out of frame as much, because this is drawing your attention type of situation. And so as a magician, our job is to control your spotlight. So you see that little 8 there? That's your spotlight. That's where we want you to look. So when we're talking, your spotlight will be kind of somewhere around here. But then obviously if we start to go real quiet, then you have to focus in on that a little bit more. But then let's say we're saying, hey, I have an 8 ball in my hand. You'll look at my hand, because that's where your spotlight is where I've directed it. So that's what we try to work on as a magician. Okay. By simply slowing down and lowering the volume and pitch of my voice, the audience snaps to attention. The change of pace and nothing else alerts them that something new is happening on stage. Frequently, that's all I need to put me back in command. I recall seeing a performance by Anton Zellman, one of the leading and highest paid trade show producers and performers in America. He is a super smooth showman in the best sense, and his memory and mentalism demonstrations pulling the crowds from the trade show aisles. On this particular night, he was doing a stage show. In every way, it was up to his high standards. But then he called up to the stage a woman who was the wife of an old friend of his, and the texture of the show changed for the better. Suddenly, he began talking conversationally, as opposed to the precision made speech patterns he used up until that point. I could feel within the audience around me a renewed and heightened interest in the performance, and it was due, I believe, to his softer, friendlier, and yes, slower voice. It would have been a mistake for him to have used this voice throughout the program. It was the contrast that brought the audience's attention to a new, higher level, one that would not have been achieved had he continued to perform all the way through with his usual high energy approach. I acknowledge that the more common fault is working or talking too slowly. In the next section, Eliminate Weak Spots, we'll examine how to know when you've got to speed up and how to do it correctly. Never apologize to your audience. Remember, they don't care. Entertainment is about escaping reality. So resist the temptation to explain your problems. They don't care. You are Superman, and Superman doesn't suffer from colds, or backaches, from lack of sleep. They don't care about problems backstage, or that your kids kept you up last night, or about any illness or other personal problem. What a sneeze. Okay. And you should never send their attention to any glitches in the sound or lighting system, as many performers do. The temptation to apologize or explain can be huge and compelling. I know from experience I've had backaches that made me wince with every step. I performed days after my mother died when I was only 26 years old. I have chronic asthma, and once in a while it kicks up during a show. I've gone on with no sleep in days, with high fever, with stomach cramps, with severe allergies, not all on the same day! Exclamation point! For those reasons and more, I want them to know why I might have a bit less energy than usual. And I've told them, and only after too many years did it finally sink in. They don't care! Another exclamation point! Not only do they not care, but by apologizing or explaining away some problem. I've just noticed just now that my microphone is set to karaoke. So we're gonna take a break here. Technical difficulties, right? We're going to turn on my monitoring and see what happens, because we just want to make sure that it's not sounding strange. Hello? Hello, hello? See if we can turn that up a little bit. Hello, hello? Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. Technical issues can happen. This is exactly what he said not to do. Do not draw attention to your sound. Anyway, hello? What? Hello? Hello, hello? Hello? Hello, hello? 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 Okay. So that's a thing that just happened. Sounds like a little bit of echo on that. No, okay, it's fine. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled broadcast. That's weird. Okay. I just apologized to my audience like 4 times, and we're reading about not apologizing to your audience, especially in reference to sound problems. But we're doing what we're doing, and we're reading Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Make it funny if that's your character. I'm the goofy uncle who messes up, so like that's me. I'm just the guy. I'm magical, I just do stuff. Anyway, not only do they not care, but by apologizing and explaining away some problem, you lower yourself. Let me jump over here to Pro. Again, I don't know why it was like that. I don't know if somebody was playing with it. Kiddos. Anyway. The section about what not to do, and that's what we're doing. Because this is just for you. This is the kind of entertainment that you came here to see. By apologizing or explaining away some problem, you lower yourself a notch. An apology is kryptonite to your Superman image. It weakens you. There are 2 exceptions. You apologize because you must, or you apologize to get a laugh. If the start of your show has been delayed beyond a reasonable time, you offer a simple, direct, and honest apology in order to negate negative vibes. That's an apology with a purpose. If something is obviously out of the ordinary, you're wearing a cast on your arm, you're limping, you have laryngitis, you're performing in street clothes because your suitcase was stolen, then you have a reason to offer an apology. So you do it succinctly, with the humor if possible. Or you apologize for a punchline. Criskin explains to his audience early in his show that he bumped into a ladder. A ladder moved in front of me and hurt his knee. Then he says, "You're probably thinking to yourself, if Criskin is such a great mentalist, why didn't he see the ladder coming?" Criskin has used this gag for years, and so there must be a purpose. And the purpose is clear. He gets a laugh while at the same time he acknowledges his fallibility. A useful ploy at the beginning of a 90-minute mentalism set. Now, as Criskin might say, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that the advice to never apologize doesn't mesh with establish your humanity. Not true. You establish your humanity in a planned, deliberate manner, a manner that reveals who you are in the best light, of course. Apologizing for external problems brings you down a notch, down into the audience, and you never want to drop down figuratively and join the audience. They should be looking up to you, literally and figuratively. And certainly never apologize for cutting something from your act. No one knows what you intended to do, so why tease them? It's one of those types of situations where, like right now, I'm in performance mode, but I'm reading a book on YouTube. I'm not performing magic per se. I'm helping you along your journey as we read this together. So it's kind of, there's technical issues that can be explored there. Now, it goes the same way with establishing credibility in the corporate world or in other facets of your life, where apologizing can be detrimental because it makes you seem less than or meek. Where if you're in negotiations, you simply state the reasons for whatever it is that you are doing, but don't apologize for that as if they're your better. That sounds harsh, but it's like if you're late, you don't say, "I'm sorry I'm late." You say, "Hey, thank you for waiting." So now you've elevated what it is that you were going to say, you maintain control, and you've spun it in a way that nobody feels negativity from it. Because they've been acknowledged that their time is valuable. You didn't have to lose status and respect because you're not apologizing profusely. And again, there's also cultural things that might play into that too. So there's some really interesting things to consider there. But I think that's kind of a similar idea about maintaining your status and your control over your environment. Not about controlling other people, which is something that you may do in the context of a magic show, but only for the fun and entertainment value of it. In this case, you are elevating yourself and maintaining your control and your respect in the eyes of your audience. So, radiate control. From the moment you walk in front of the audience, you want them at ease with you. People feel comfortable when they believe they are in the presence of someone who knows what he's doing, who sends out vibes that say, "I'm your captain, I'm in command, and you can place your confidence in me." Anything that sends signals of insecurity must be avoided. Here are a few tips of avoiding telltale signs of a person not in control. You can check for them on your video. Don't pace. Walking back and forth as you talk signals insecurity. Stand your ground. When you do move, move with purpose. Anchor yourself internally and externally. Don't shift your weight nervously from side to side. Don't sway or rock. Don't fidget with the microphone, the mic stand, the cards, or any prop in front. You should avoid touching anything. Your table, the lectern, props, volunteers, until the moment you need to. A touch should be a deliberate and necessary motion. Don't keep your hands jammed in your pockets. Don't repetitively clear your voice or cough nervously. Are you looking at me? You can maintain control with your gaze. In fact, you must be aware of the entire room. Continually scan the audience, not only for the eye contact, but also to ensure that the people on the periphery remain as involved as those up closer to you. As soon as you do see anyone drifting away, mentally or physically pump up your audience to that section of the room. Make them aware, without doing anything that may be obvious to the others in the audience, that you're bringing them back into the action. Here's how. Look at them just a little bit longer as you talk. Smile directly at them. If you reach a moment when you should normally make a gesture out toward the audience, allow your arm to point in their direction for just an extra second or two. Unless you're sloshed or otherwise oblivious, they usually get the message. Excuse me. For stage workers especially, except for when it suits your purpose, never respond to an intentional interruption from the audience. A question, a statement, a joke, or any remark from a heckler. Because if you do respond, you grant permission for the next interruption. I have seen too many performers break the flow of their act by needlessly and unproductively responding to something that didn't require a response. Don't fall into that easy trap unless you have developed a rapier wit and surefire comebacks. Ignore, 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 despite the temptation to appear witty or friendly. This advice is less viable for close-up workers, especially table hoppers. After all, you've encroached on their territory. In that case, it's you, not they, who must fit into the flow and ambience of the setting. Dominate me. I like it! Exclamation point! And finally, you control every moment because that's what your audience craves. So many people have humdrum lives, or as Thoreau said, lives of quiet desperation. And they have real problems and crave a release, however temporary, from their everyday eni. They want to connect with the possibility that there actually might be a Superman who can accomplish miracles. That's what Houdini gave his audiences, and that's why he became so much more than a music hall entertainer. People want to believe there is something beyond a something that imposes its own order upon the universe. By controlling your environment in a way they cannot, you give your audience optimism and perhaps something to which they themselves might aspire. Uplifting, inspirational. Okay, number 5. Shake it out. Eliminate weak spots. Don't skip leg day. Here's an interesting, highly generalized observation. Amateur magicians perform too slowly, and advanced amateurs and newbie professionals perform too quickly. The amateurs perform slowly because they fail to put in the requisite rehearsal time and practice, and so they end up fishing for the right words, or the right cards, or birds. Advanced amateurs and new pros perform too quickly because they have not yet developed confidence in the impact of their routines. Before we go further, let me be crystal ball clear about my position here. Faster is almost always better than slower. Slow works only if you have the audience fully fixated on every word and action. Slow is much more difficult to pull off successfully, but slow can be much more effective. More on that later. For the most part, if you successfully erect the first 4 pillars, you won't have weak spots, for the most part. Eliminating weak spots may become the biggest payoff of having a video of your performance. Once you have a video and can see what the audience sees and hears, you can begin to intelligently gauge the flow of your program. As you watch yourself on video, be prepared to edit your act ruthlessly. Chop out unnecessary words, delete sentences that fail to move the routine forward, demolish whole routines if they fail to get the hoped for response. Make every moment important to the flow of the entertainment, not most moments. Every moment, every second. So I don't know if it's mentioned here, but we'll get into that. So I was watching, I think it was on maybe the Magic Guys, one of the podcast things I was watching. They recommended in today's world, you can film each part of your show. Now, obviously, if you're doing your rehearsal stuff, you don't have the audience, so you don't have the reaction. But what you can do is you have your modular pieces, your tricks and effects that build to routines, and then you have routines that segue and segment together to make your whole show. So you film everything as it would be pieced together. Then you take the video recording of this and plug that into an editor, and then you separate each segment, each trick, and each line of patter, and you can pull the audio, and you can really just break down what works in the rehearsal. Obviously, you're not going to learn the other stuff until you go to performances and see where things are working and where things are not working, but that's later on down the line. Before you even get to that, you have to know your craft. You have to master it, and you have to be ready to go out and perform a congruent show. So you can do that in the editor, allowing you to take out segments of your show that you, as the performer, you're like, hey, this hits pretty good. I think this is pretty good. You can, and if it doesn't work, you can get rid of it. You can feel as it comes together and just know how those things are going to piece together. Once you get more experience, you take that into your editor, you pull out segments, you move segments around. Like, hey, I don't think that closer works for me. Let me go ahead and move that over here. Or even just different tricks as they build up. Like, oh, I feel like this one's a little bit better here. And you can move it around, and then you can practice that way. And as a bonus, promotion. Back in the day, we talked about the 3 P's of success: practice, perform, promote, repeat. Right? You got to go back to practice, because promoting is just as important as performing, and practice is just so important overall. But once you perform, if you have the opportunity to record, take that back to your editor, create some type of cinematic rendition of your show, pull out all the good parts, put that together, and use that as your B-roll or your highlight reel. Put it on your website. You can show that to people when they ask you for your shows, and then you've got material that you've used for 3 different things. You're using it to practice from, you're using it to increase and to evaluate your own performances, and you're plugging it back in to promote for you to make more money longevity-wise. So that way, the next time you go out and perform, you've just fixed things from each one of those categories and made it better. So keep that in mind, that we live in a world where technology can help us become more efficient because we can control time. Yeah. I mean, we can only visually see it. We can't control different aspects of it, but you can record and watch it, and then your future can be better because of what you've seen in the past. So take that and use that at your leisure. Okay. Watch every segment of your show over and over. With repeated viewings, you can begin to see the flaws, the needless words, the hesitations that impede the flow. Use the remote control aggressively to break your performance down into smaller segments: 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. So it's saying remote control. And I don't know, like with the editor right now, with the potential that you have just to plug it into an editor, chop those parts off, and then only focus on each segment until they are flawless. Then work on your segues. If you don't like a certain part, delete it, turn the camera on, shoot it again, upload it into your segment. So now you have the ability to only work on individual routines at a time until they're polished. Then you go back and perform the entire thing, and now you're golden. So, you think that's asking too much? Consider the musician who follows a precise set of instructions, hundreds or thousands of notes, each thoughtfully placed to build upon the preceding note. Every note encompassing a tiny slice of the preceding note. Every note encompassing a tiny slice of time demands precision. A false note jars the senses and ruins the effect of the music. So the musician rehearses the task of perfecting these minuscule moments in order to achieve the perfect whole. Why should magicians do less? When I say that you must consider every second, I'm neither kidding nor engaging in hyperbole. To illustrate a couple of examples of missed opportunities, I'll describe part of what you can see on spectators don't. I'll describe part of what you can see on Spectators Don't Exist, a video of above average table hopping routines by English magician John Allen. Major kudos to John, by the way, for showing us his routines performed out in the real world for unsuspecting people. Would that all would that all magic videos did would that all would that all magic videos did the same? Wish that all? Hmm. In a floating dollar bill routine he calls Ghost, he starts by asking, "Do you believe in ghosts or anything like that?" He gets a couple of mild responses and then never brings up anything about ghosts again. Obviously, he intends to imply that a spirit of some sort makes the bill move, but he fails to communicate that to the viewers. He should either follow up on that theme or not bring it up initially. He asks that the borrowed bill be signed, and while that happens, he takes a wine glass from the table, turns it upside down, away from the table to spill out any last drops, and says, to no one in particular, "I'll make sure this is empty and dry. I could drink it, but I won't," and then places it back down. It's a few meaningless words, a few weak seconds in which nothing is accomplished. Perhaps he could be more proactive in that moment, possibly by looking at the woman whose glass he is taking and saying something like, "That's a perfect ghost trap. May I borrow it for a moment?" Almost anything that keeps him in control of that moment will play stronger than turning away and talking to himself. The missed opportunity to control the moment lasted just 3 or 4 seconds, and the balance of the routine played well. Most magicians would be thrilled to get the reaction Mr. Allen achieves. My point here, and throughout this book, is that good is never good enough. Raise your level. So, thinking about that, I actually have a couple of videos on the channel that we have done since my performance that is scripted and practiced and drilled in. I would like to also watch that as a part of our subsequent series. As we're reading this book, I want to review my videos, and I want you to come along and join me for that. And if you have anything that you want us to review together, just go ahead and let me know down below, and then we could offer some advice and reviews for you as we watch them together here on the channel. So, yeah, go ahead and let me know down below. Speed kills. Years ago, I read one jazz critic's assessment of how you can tell good musicians from great musicians. The good ones dazzle listeners by playing notes with blinding speed, while the greatest musicians play only the necessary notes. It's the same in magic. We have no shortage of technically skilled practitioners, Top Gun flyboys who seek to dazzle us with their rat-tat-tat displays of daft sleights and flourishes, and we have a surfeit of word wizards who ploy us with bada boom, bada bing patter, rarely pausing to let the audience catch up and appreciate their cleverness. Both can entertain audiences and be labeled good or very good. More commonly, however, we see speed demons smash one moment into the next, and their spectators lose interest. A blur of great magic is still a blur. When that happens, the musician will be at a complete loss to understand why repeat bookings don't materialize. You will have weak moments if you try too hard to impress if you tend to move along at a fast clip. That may be, for you, vastly better than allowing the pace to flag. Just be aware that in a longer show, any 15 minutes or more, you may want to slow down now and then. Not only to change the texture of the program, but also to allow yourself to play the necessary notes, those that deliver the strongest emotional punch. Excepting those born and raised in the southern part of the United States, the majority of professional magicians speak too quickly. As a New Yorker, I know that's a tendency I personally must constantly guard against. It's probably because we know the words, we've thought about them over and over, and familiarity breeds speed. The spectator is hearing your words for the first time. Don't garble them. Don't rush them. Watch your video and listen to yourself as a spectator listens. Try to judge if every word is intelligible. The pause that refreshes. Pauses at the right time and done with a sense of control add power. Never confuse an intentional pause with a weak spot. A moment is weak if it adds no meaning to the effect. In a strong routine, there may be moments when no one speaks, but never dead silence. Silence is deafening if you are searching for a prop or you are at loss for words. On the other hand, a dramatic pause just prior to the climactic moment may be the final booster rocket needed to launch the effect into a higher orbit. You may not enjoy reading this, but not everyone pays attention to your every word. Minds wander. Attention becomes diffused in spite of, or sometimes because of, intensity. I've seen I've I've seen people sometimes fall asleep at rock concerts because of the sameness of the sound level. Just as people fall asleep while the TV blares, but then wake up when the loving spouse turns it off. A pause in your act is the TV being shut off. It jolts, and it can jolt your audience in a manner beneficial to your success. Pauses also become effective when used to signal the inner struggle, the difficulty of the moment, and we must never lose sight of the struggle. After all, if failure is not a possibility, what's the point? Now, I'll use a very basic example here of how to lock this together. We are reading from the book here, but think about how sentence structure works. So we use periods and commas and exclamation points and question marks and all the fun stuff to differentiate in our speech, because speech is a kind of a performance. As we communicate, if we are excited about what it is that we're talking about, we up the energy and we speak louder. If we really want people to listen and understand what it is that we're saying, we will slow down and say each word independently. We will also take breaks at the end of sentences because of the period. So they're built in to that performance of speech. And if there's a comma, we take a break. So let's see if I can find an example of where and we must never lose sight of the struggle. And then there's a semicolon. After all, comma, if failure is not a possibility, comma, what's the point? Question mark. As I lift up the end to ask that question. Okay. The magic is rarely enough. Finally, you will have slow spots if all you have going for you is the magic, because the magic is rarely enough. You're going to amaze me. Okay, what else? It goes back to what reaction do you want from each moment? The climax is just one part. After a small part of any trick, magic at magic conventions is so often boring precisely because the routine has been crafted to showcase the magic, with little thought or effort going into the everything else. The magic is rarely enough. Make me laugh or charm me, or transfix me with the drama, or dazzle me or fascinate me, and then amaze me. You will lose your audience if you expect them to wait patiently for the payoff. Okay. Section number 6. This is the sixth pillar of the entertainment success ladder that we've been climbing here today. Don't forget to subscribe because it really does help out the channel. And don't forget that up to 3 hours after my premieres, you'll have an opportunity to donate through Super Chats and Super Thanks towards our sponsored book giveaway. Yes, you could sponsor a giveaway, a donation. We already have a second book right here. We already have a second book ready to be donated as part of this book sponsorship. All you got to do is donate today. Thank you. Now back to number 6. Build to a climax. See what I did there? Did a little bit of a break to build up to the end. Here we go. Always leave them wanting more is a showbiz saying that needs to be rethought. The original intent is correct. You never want to overextend your welcome, but you cannot leave your audience wanting more because you failed to provide a clear-cut conclusion. If your act is a conveyor belt of tricks and suddenly stops, your spectator will feel cheated. They want more. They want a final punctuation, a period, or better yet, an exclamation point. He knows. That gratifies, satisfies, and fulfills their expectations of your entertainment experience. That's why each routine must build internally to a climax, and the entire act must build exuberantly to its highest point. To an outsider, and certainly to many magicians, it would seem that the very nature of magic makes the advice to build to a climax with each trick superfluous. It's a word. After all, every trick comes with a built-in climax. Your hand is empty. Now there's a coin in it. A card is selected and then it rises from the deck, set up, climax. One follows the other. Now, as a quick break here, I want to speak about simple stories, right? Back in the day, we had the sword and sorcerer, the magic, the warrior and wizard series, right? Very simplistic books. They were like 100 to 300 pages, sword and sorcery novels. And then the movies came out, and it was just like big, strong warrior guy with big sword goes on journey to beat bad guy who may or may not have magic or have henchmen that has magic, all that type of thing. And in order for him to go on his quest, he might have to find an item that makes him strong enough to defeat the bad guy. And it's very like, first scene is usually him showcasing his abilities and why he's the right person for the job. Then he's set on his way to the quest where he finds the item, a little bit of trouble there, but he succeeds in the end. He gets it, and then he goes off to fight the big bad guy and may or may not lose initially, but still wins in the end. Very linear, very simplistic story, but still so compelling, and we still watch and follow and read and do all that stuff to this day because of the progression and how simplistic the build-up. I mean, it's literally just an arc up to the climax, and then at the end, he rides off into the sunset, and he wins the day. We love it, and we'll watch it until the end of time because we absolutely love the progression and the build and all that. So your act should have texture to it, and like there's the magician in trouble act, which is like, oh, I made mistakes but I corrected them, or there even as the magician who's always in control, there has to be some type of build-up where things become more and more impossible, but the magician still succeeds in the most impossible way because there's still conflict and then resolution. And then it should always build up to the I'll use the example of like the magic box. So you give the audience a box at the beginning and you never touch it again. You just kind of talk about it a little bit. And then you hightail back to your performance. You don't even go near the box. The spectator could be holding the box. They could be holding the key. You don't ever go towards it. And then you do this whole routine where you're building up, building up, building up. You do a card trick, have it signed. The card disappears at some point, and then at the end, you're like, who's got the box? As if you just remembered. Okay, who's got the key? Perfect. Let's go ahead and open it up. Oh, there's a card in here. It's been here the whole time. No, couldn't be. Take the card out, show it to be their signed card. You never had the box. They've had the box the whole time. So that is something to consider for your build-up for your routine, that it makes it seem impossible because you never had it. So there you go. It's a magic for you. However, there's a huge difference between having a climax and building to a climax. Too many performers make the assumption that the audience will, in essence, climax with the performer. Well, in magic and in lovemaking, there's a chasm between real life and what you read in the magazines. Each trick must be thoughtfully constructed to build as with an old-fashioned wooden roller coaster. Click, clack, click, anticipation. And the program as a whole must send them back to their lives with a blast-in-the-face rush. Although this section stresses the importance of your final routine, in truth, it's typically more difficult to find ideal openers. Your first few moments set the tone, telegraph your style, and cause the audience to decide if they're going to physically. Words today are troubling me. The word is psychically, maybe that's it. Psychically invest themselves in your performance. Ironically, while finding your ideal opening effect may take years, an experienced performer could theoretically mold almost any piece of decent magic into a strong climax. For example, I've read that Michael Skinner developed a dynamite routine with the classic toy magic trick, the ball and raise. A Svengali deck could be the basis of a dramatic blindfold card stab routine. Truly, Any effect that usually receives a strong reaction can be your climax if you properly ramp up the presentation. Now, think about a theater play or anything like that, where at the end, or even in the movies, you build up to your final scene and then it just curtain falls, everything goes black, right? Now, Marvel has done something to us in the last decade or so with their movies that has hurt us in other fields of theater and cinema, where they give us the after credit scene, which is brilliantly placed to prepare us for the next movies that are coming out, so that we've finalized the story that we're watching, but then they hook us for the next one. But unfortunately, they don't always conclude these movies. They don't always come out with these final scenes. 1 second. Hi. No. Hi. Okay. I love you. What do you guys need? Okay. We're in the middle of doing our read aloud here for our video. So we're gonna have you go back upstairs. Hi, I'm reading, and I'm doing a video. What are you guys doing upstairs?
What if we kept crying?
I will. What are you guys doing? Did you get her milk?
Yep.
Okay. Can you guys please head back upstairs?
Well, Daddy, I want outside on the sidewalk.
We're not going outside right now because I'm not up there to watch you, and I'm taking a break here from my video to talk to you.
No, don't. I just heard James say that.
Okay. Stay inside, please. I love you. Please head back upstairs. Play your games, okay? Love you. And we're back. Okay. Where were we? Oh. And now we have a kitty cat to join us. Let's see here. Although this section stresses the importance of your final routine, in truth, it's typically more difficult to find the ideal opener. Your first few moments... Did I already read this? Oh, yes. Down here... Surprisingly to some, the climax of your show is not necessarily your most amazing effect. In fact, sometimes there's no effect at all at the end! Exclamation point! The climaxes of some of the best shows I've seen are nothing more than the performer gathering all the warmth and energy in the room and placing it upon himself. In one of my personal entertainment highlights, for example, you'll read how consummate mentalist Gil Eagles dramatically closes his show actually just a few moments before his final bows. With the removal of a blindfold, no fireworks, no music, no wham-bang closer, just a slowing down of the excitement with a consummate outpouring of affection from performer to audience and from audience to performer. It's quiet, but it's a rush nonetheless. Simply put, for a mini-climax to be effective, it must be set apart from the body of the show. I can't design a killer climax for you, but I can provide some basic guidelines. If you perform at a leisurely pace, increase the energy. If most of your show is fast-paced, slow down. If you use music, either stop the music temporarily or dramatically change the music. If you don't use music, bring music in at the finale. And other techniques. A reprise of an earlier feat, but this time with a twist, faster or slower. More difficult, new hurdles to overcome. A return to failures or mistakes which had been done straight or as gags and are now brought to successful conclusion. Whatever you do, make certain that your last minutes with the audience stand apart from all that came before. Even simply announcing, I would like to close my show for you tonight, may serve the purpose perfectly. It sets up the expectation that something extra special is about to unfold. So close attention needs to be paid. I'd like to close my show for you tonight. Very nice. Vary the texture. We've talked about texture in a lot of different things here, and this is one of those, graduating texture to give some extra flavor to your performance. A number of leading magic writers contend that in structuring your act, it's of the utmost importance that each section appear progressively more difficult. Bold! Exclamation point. Each section has to flow into the next, and each must stand on its own, which is what we were talking about for that earlier when you're doing your recording of your performances. You can take each part apart and you can move it around because they're all separate. They're all modular pieces. What just happened? Sorry, my phone is going off once again. Let's see if I can. How do I turn this off? Just trying to turn my phone off. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Okay. Let's try this again. So many interruptions here towards the end of the video. Varying the texture. A number of leading magic writers contend that in structuring your act, each section has to flow into the next, and each must stand on its own. If a particular piece increases the suspense or supposed difficulty, that's fine. But achieving an interesting texture for your performance as a whole is the desired goal. You can still build toward your final climax by using various moods, each having its own charm or power or fascination. Copperfield, as with many other illusionists, typically starts with a startling appearance. Later on, he moves to quiet close-up routines or silly kid show stuff, albeit high-end, silly kid show stuff. He is not progressively performing more difficult or impressive feats. Gourmet chefs find the right mix of textures and colors, sweet against acidic, crunchy atop velvety. We too need to throw surprises onto the plate, forcing yourself to make each trick stronger. Oh, see, it's just a distraction at this point. I gotta figure out how to turn it off. Not working. I'm sure these buttons do something. That activates Bixby. That's not what I want. There's got to be some way. Oh, there we go. Power off. Perfect. Okay. Apologize for that. We're supposed to be doing some reading and we're supposed to keep things going. And it's just a distraction. Let's see here. We too need to throw surprises onto the plate. Forcing yourself to make each trick stronger and more powerful as the show progresses can be counterproductive. Focus instead on making each piece fit the whole, the flow, the desired internal structure, with the understanding that the audience fully expects your final piece to be your best. Heighten the impossibility. When discussing climaxes, we must look back to capture the excitement. You will build the best climax to any trick by carefully extracting the moment where the magic happens, and whenever possible, helping the audience to understand why what they are about to see is impossible. Experienced performers instinctively know or learn how to ratchet up the drama. Among the infinite pick a card tricks, virtually all start with the performer either knowing the identity of the card prior to its selection or learning the identity or location of the card within seconds of its return to the deck. At that point, the issue is, how will I reveal what I know? You could simply announce you chose the three of spades. Yeah, you could, but you won't. Or you could take the spectator's wrist and, by giving careful instructions for her to first think of the color, then the suit, then the value, attempt to ascertain the identity of the card by your highly developed ability to read clues from her pulse. Same trick, but now you have built a little playlet and heightened the perceived difficulty. Almost any trick can be made stronger simply by thinking about how you can make it appear more difficult, more impossible. Ricky Jay closed his off-Broadway hit show On the Stem with a multiple card selection routine. It was nothing more than a string of standard pick a card and here's your card effects. but there was nothing run-of-the-mill in the way Ricky built the pace, the drama, and bang, bang, bang excitement with each revelation. Lance Burton is a master at communicating his humanity, a talent he called upon for the climax of his first TV show. He just sat on a stool, center stage, talking softly to the audience as he performed a charming torn and restored newspaper. No flash, no explosions, no magic, no monster trick, just one human sharing a moment with his audience. It worked beautifully. John Carney, in his outstanding contribution to the literature, The Book of Secrets, tells of a significant lesson he learned from the late Michael Skinner. It had to do with what Skinner called the magic moment. That instant in a routine when the magic happens as a result of something the magician does. Sometimes Michael would create an anticipatory tension in what he would call the exaggerated pause. Just previous to revealing the vanish of a coin or the change of a card, he would sometimes stop still and quiet, his hands hovering frozen over the object. He would hold his pause for 5 seconds or more, to the point where the silence felt almost uncomfortable. He would then snap his fingers and reveal the effect of his intense concentration. The dramatic suspense created by this pause provided a focus and anticipation that increased the effect many times over. In this way, he had made it known that his phenomenon had not just randomly occurred. As a magician, he had caused it to happen. He had created a magic moment. Carney called Skinner the first all-around sleight-of-hand magician in the world, and it's clear that Skinner understood the overarching concepts required to successfully entertain with close-up magic. Those concepts apply equally well to all other branches of magic. Skinner, in concert with all the best magicians, didn't throw away the moment of magic. He built up to it and presented it on a silver platter. Here is the magic! Exclamation point! On multiple climaxes. In multiple phase routines or multiple multi-climax routines, there must be a dramatic progression. Magicians love coin assembly type effects. I wonder if we're fooling ourselves about the true impact of any effect loaded with many climaxes. What's the point? That a coin travels invisibly under this card to that card again and again? Or are we demonstrating our dexterity? In either case, the entertainment value of the surprise moment often diminishes with each revelation. Here's what John Northern Hilliard had to say on this topic in his classic book, Greater Magic. The tarbell rope trick, although a masterpiece of magic, has a weak finish because you have repeated cutting and restoring 2 or 3 times. Where is your climax? The first restoration is the surprise moment. The second and third are repeats of the same surprise and are therefore less surprising each time. All these new tricks of twisting and turning yard of rope with dozens of loops don't mean a thing from any audience point of view. The simpler the trick, the better. You have a rope, you cut it in 2, rejoin it, and throw it out. Finished. No loops, no complicated moves, apparently just a little miracle. I have seen a few presentations of coin assembly effects and a fewer still long rope tricks that were entertaining. So it is possible to pull it off. For any multi-climax trick to be effective, though, there must be something beyond repetitive magic, and usually that something is fun. When fun equals or exceeds the magic, you hold the viewer's attention. One of the best examples of this is a beautifully presented version of The Miser's Dream. In my first personal entertainment highlights, there's a snippet about Al Flesho's presentation of this classic. He did the same trick many times, producing coins from impossible places. But the element of great fun and surprise never left the routine, and of course, create masters of The Miser's Dream like Jeff McBride and Andrew Golden Hirsch performed the routine with great skill and charm. I'm going to have to do some research to watch this stuff again, because I've watched some of them previously, because in my Easter magic show, I do The Miser's Dream as part of my show. I actually found some things that work, that are not typically used, and they're beautiful. So we may be performing it on here for you guys in the future as part of this routine of performing and then evaluating. So, Climax fast, climax slow. In the Denny and Lee performance video from DennyMagic.com, you can see how Denny, who was beloved by many and who left us in early 2019, and Lee took a piece of standard box magic, the substitution trunk, and without excess glitter or speed, turned it into an ovation-inducing finale. Slow? Question. In the time it took for the metamorphosis to take place, the original Pendragons, Jonathan and Charlotte, could do their act, cook dinner, and vacuum the den, yet the audience gave Denny and Lee an enthusiastic standing ovation. Why? Denny's handling of the classic completely lacks the speed and finesse so common among TV special magicians. Instead of speed, he emphasizes the impossibility of the stunt. At his insistence, audience volunteers banged and slapped away at all sides of the wooden crate. They checked out the canvas bag and the rope and the locks. And at the end, when Denny emerges from the canvas bag, a palpable sense of wow, ! Courses through the audience. It comes down to this. The Pendragons communicate a show that says, "Look how cool we are! ! There's nothing wrong with cool. The public works to see cool people. That's why People magazine exists." Denny and Lee, on the other hand, implicitly ask, "Do you want to see something really amazing?" The Pendragons took your breath away. It takes longer to say instantaneous than for the switch to occur. They deserved all their accolades. I just want you to be aware that the trappings of a full Las Vegas main stage act are not required to thoroughly entertain your audience, and that you can take a piece of standard magic and build it into an ovation-producing climax. I'll have to find his name, but he was on... What was he on? I want to say The Magic Guys, because that's one of the podcasts that I watch that's visual. A lot of the other ones are not. But I watch a couple of the magicians. Anyway, there's a guy who does cups and balls as his opener. And what he said is anything can be your opener, anything that can be your closer, if you're good enough and you sell it that way. And he's good enough. He does cups and balls to start his show. And it's good. It's a good trick. It can be done anywhere. So, one true climax per audience. Thank you. While some performers lack a strong climax for their show, others make the equally egregious mistake of having more than one. That is, they set the audience up to believe they are seeing the grand moment, and then the program moves on to yet another unrelated trick. That's a big mistake. You can take the audience to the mountaintop only once. Keep going, and you risk falling off the edge. When I watch a movie, a play, or magic act, I feel slightly cheated when I realize the climax ain't the climax. I have invested emotionally, collaterally in that moment, and then, when it's clear there's more to come, I hold back from fully enjoying the next climax because I've been burned once. All's well that ends well. Shakespeare, as usual, figured it all out. If your show ends on an upbeat, if your audience is thrilled, laughing, crying from heartfelt emotion, astonished to a degree that takes them beyond all that has gone before, you win. Mistakes are forgotten, faux pas recede from memory, launched into obscurity by the thrust of your climatic moments. We humans are a forgiving lot. Make us feel good before you send us back to our real lives, and you will be remembered fondly. That is why you invest extra time, effort, and creativity into delivering the absolutely strongest climax possible. Nail your climax! ! There you have it, the 6 pillars of entertainment success, specifically for magicians and mentalists. Yes, an enlivened government policy wonk grandmother can enthrall her investment professional audience without capturing the excitement or building to a climax. We cannot. For us to achieve maximum entertainment, we need all 6. Boom! So there is the personal enlightenment for the David Berglass A-Can, which we will start off with next time. And we are just over an hour. Fantastic. We've made it through. That's a good one. I like this one. I think we're going to do a short video for you guys to highlight the importance of the things that we read in Chapter 4, because the 6 pillars of entertainment success are very important for us to follow. So don't forget to stick around for up to 3 hours. Make sure you share it about. If you want to be a book sponsor today, you just can donate. The way that the rules work is this. The book costs about $40 plus shipping. I already have the first book, so we don't even need to get that far. Okay, we just need enough to ship it, which I would say probably about $20, depending on where we're sending it to, and the first book can be sent out. That's all we got to get to. All of us combined, we can make this happen, and we will continue to do this as long as we have people willing to sponsor book giveaways. Thank you, everybody, and remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And we hope to see you tomorrow for another fantastic read aloud event from Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Ooh. And don't forget to subscribe, because it really does help out the channel. Of course, that doesn't look as good when we're not over here. Ha-cha, look at that. We're here. We're big. Don't forget to subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And over here, you'll see a video just for you. Yeah, just for you. Woo. Ta-da!